Welcome back to our Wimbledon 2018 coverage here at sportsbookreview.com. Joining us is Martin Green and Nigel Seeley, here to run down their first round best bets for tennis. Now, I do know we've got the match starting in 30 minutes. I'm going to make this really quick. I'm going to get down to the information that we want to hear. Just want to make sure as well, we will be covering each round best plays. We've got the whale capper joining us. Nigel obviously will be with us through the tournament. Alex will be back as well. He's on his travels and just getting back to Romania and at a wedding and wherever he is. But he'll be joining us. But listen, boys, welcome to the show. Let us start. Nigel, men's side, round one, best plays. What do you like?
Well, the thing is with round one at Wimbledon, basically it's the time where every odds-on accumulator punter comes out and backs 10, 15, 10 to 1 non-shots and tries to get lucky and get them all home. And usually that's not bad policy. You very rarely get a lot of shocks in Wimbledon first round. The favourites backers are always out in force and they usually win because it is such a tournament. You're either exceptional on the surface grass or you're absolutely hopeless on it. I, for myself, as junior Wimbledon champion back in 1987, love playing on grass. But anyway, enough about me. The thing here is that you have to look at the players who enjoy playing on it and the players that don't play on it. And obviously there's rankings and people look at seedings and they look at the rankings. It makes no difference if some players rank 32 and the other player ranks 52. On this surface, it's all about who can play on the surface and who can't. Yeah. And I think you can eliminate certain players. Now, I've gone for a parlay to start with. It's a short price parlay, but you would turn around and say, oh, we don't pick things up. But it's a 1.7, the double. Okay. And that, to me, represents huge, huge value. And my first approach is Kakhanov to beat David Ferrer. Now, David Ferrer has never been a player, the Spaniard's always been a player who come bridesmaid to Nadal at Wimbledon, bridesmaid to Nadal, all the clay court tournaments. But he was never a player that ever liked playing on Wimbledon. I think he famously said once in a press conference that grass is something that cows eat. He didn't want it to be playing on grass. He didn't think tennis should be that way. But he's playing against Kakhanov. They've met once before this year already. And Kakhanov won in Montpellier on a hard court. Now, this is a surface that this boy is going to love. He's a big hitter. He will blow Ferrer off the court. Ferrer played in glass last week, got beat 6-3, 6-love. He's never the same player. He's just had a baby. He's talking about retiring at the end of the season, spend time with his family. He hated Wimbledon when he was up in the top 5 in the world. Now he's down outside the top 100 or around the bottom of the top 100. He is not going to fancy this. He'll want to be on the plane home straight away, watching Spain in the World Cup quarterfinals. And I think Kakhanov at 125, which is short, I know. I think it should be 1.1. I think it should be a 10-on shot. So 125, Kakhanov to beat Ferrer. And I'm going to put it in a double with a boy I think has got a fantastic future and definitely a future Wimbledon champion. And that's Borna Coric, a Croatian player. He's playing Medvedev and he's 1.36. Medvedev is a clay court player through and through. Coric is a 100% record on grass coming into Wimbledon, including wins over Roger Federer and a win over Zverev. That is impressive for a kid of 20 years of age. He's up to 16 in the world rankings. I think he's a future number one. I think he's a future Wimbledon champion with inside. I make up a statement that their boy will Wimbledon inside 5 years. I think he's going to have a good run at this tournament. He's in the same section of draw as Federer, so that'll be interesting to see how those two match up, sort of the old guy against the young guy. But I think Medvedev is there for the taking. So my double is Kakhanov at 125 and Coric at 136, which pays 1.7. I think that's a great, great, great double to get you off on a winning start. And I've got one outsider. And I can give you one outsider, and my outsider is Benoit Paire at 6-4 to beat Andy Murray. Ooh. I can't see Andy Murray doing anything. I think he's here just because it's Wimbledon. He's here to please the British fans. He's here because he wants to show that he's trying. I know that, like I said in the preview show, that a month or so ago, he was really finding it difficult to walk. I think he's under big, big pressure. Benoit Paire is one of the best players in the world. All the flair, all the shots, but he's erratic. He completely have a meltdown. He's absolutely a loose cannon. But he will relish the opportunity of playing on centre court against Andy Murray. He'll rise to the occasion. And he just played Roger Federer in Halle, and he got beat 7-6 in a third set tiebreak, losing on, I think he had match points in the game as well. And on that kind of form, he should beat Andy Murray, who I think he's coming here probably 40% fit. Yeah. So Benoit Paire, 6-4, Kakhanov and Coric as my parlay double to get off to a winning start.
All right, men's side there. Martin, what have you got men's side round one?
I've been following Kevin Anderson very closely this year. I think he's in fine form. He's always a pretty solid player at Wimbledon. He's made the fourth round a few times. Got to the fourth round of the French Open earlier this year. US Open finalist at the end of 2017. I think the conditions are going to suit his game because he's a very big server. And I think he'll have a lot of joy against Gombos in his first game. So I'm looking at him to win in straight sets, and you can get 1.78 Kevin Anderson 3-0 in sets, which I like the look of because I think Norbert Gombos is going to find it very difficult to break him. Federer, I was talking about Federer in the previous video. There's obviously not a great deal of value on him because he's such short odds, but looking at the game handicap betting, you can get better than even money on Federer minus 8.5 games, which I think looks certainly interesting. I think he could win a couple of those sets against Dusan Lajovic pretty comfortably. So I'm looking at Federer minus 8.5. I quite like Jack Sock to win against Matteo Berrettini, but that's a bit of a lean. One that I do like is Jeremy Chardy. He's playing Denis Shapovalov. He's been very, very impressive on grass courts so far this season. He's got 12 wins and 2 defeats. Did very well at Queen's Club, went all the way to the semi-finals and only lost narrowly to Novak Djokovic. But he really acquitted himself well. He's looking like a real interesting dark horse for this tournament. Don't think he's going to win it or anything like that. I think he could enjoy a few victories just because he's having a bit of a renaissance on grass at the moment. Looks like one of the top unseeded players. Shapovalov isn't in particularly good form on grass. Lost his recent game against Zverev. Before you get too excited, that's not Alexander Zverev, that's Misha Zverev, his brother, who's by no means anywhere near as good. So Chardy is the favourite to win it. Shapovalov is about 2.3, and he's attracting the most of the action in the betting at that price. But I think there's value there. I hope you agree on Chardy at about 1.75 to get the job done because he's in fine form on grass at the moment.
All right, there we go. And we are heading over to women's now, round one best plays. We've got a few minutes before the match starts. Nigel, what do you like?
Well, a women's draw, I really find it very, very difficult to call. You've got to find a favourite that's worth taking on. And the thing is, they're all so short. So you've got to look at someone. You've got to look at women who have got, like, for me, I look at people on the handicaps and look for some players who are worth taking on the handicap. And to be honest with you, my best bets on the women's matches, I didn't really find many angles because I loathe betting on the women's side of the draw until it gets to the business end. So I look for in running. I like, if a seed goes one set down and you can still get a decent price on the person that they're playing, then that's the kind of thing I do. But the notes I've got here on the women's side, there's a couple of tough ones. There's a couple of girls who've got tough matches to consider. But let me just find out who I've got written down here. I think if you look at it, I think the big interesting game is Bencic against Garcia. I think that's a very, very difficult game. Garcia is a player who's coming on a fantastic year. Bencic is a young talent who should have got to the Wimbledon semi-finals or quarter-finals a few years ago. I think that's one of the most interesting games in the first round. Bencic you can back at bigger than 2-1, about 3.4. I don't think she'll win it, but plus 3.5 or 4.5, I think she'll definitely give Garcia a few problems because Garcia is more of a clay court player. The other game I like is Gavrilova against Diaz. I think Gavrilova has been heavily punted here into 1-2, 8-15 from around about, I think, an opening marker about 8-13. I think she'll win. I think she's big, she's strong, she's Australian. Diaz is a clay court player through and through. And if you're looking for a shock, I always like Camila Giorgi. She's playing a girl called Zvetsova, who's a seeded player. Camila Giorgi was 2.2 today. She's now backed into 2.0. I think Giorgi's a player that I always like to watch. She can play on any surface. And I think Giorgi at 2 is worth a very small interest against Zvetsova. But for me, I would look in running and look how players are playing and playing running. I'd have much more of the women's game is so inconsistent and unpredictable that you could back someone at even money. You could watch the first 3 games and know you've done your money straight away because they don't turn it on as consistently as the men.
Yeah. Just okay, great stuff. And Taif Taka, Natalie is clearly preoccupied with the next World Cup match. It is all over her face. I'm actually thinking of everybody else who will want to be watching it. That is, I'm very much enjoying this video. Martin, what have you got for the women's round 1 plays?
Yeah, I agree that that's a sensible strategy to look for in-play betting, because the women's game is just so unpredictable at the moment. I think we'll see a fair few upsets. Just one bet for me that I like the look of. I think Madison Keys can thrive on grass. She's a relatively solid player. She's up against, and I wouldn't envy the job of a commentator at Wimbledon. She's up against Tomljanovic. I hope I said that one right this time. And I think she can win that one in straight sets. You can get 1.94 on Madison Keys winning that 2-0, and I think that's a very good bet.
All right, there we go. There we have it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Enjoy the match. And a big thank you as well to Nigel and Martin. We'll be back on Tuesday with round 2 plays, I believe. So hope to see you there. Best of luck with everything. Enjoy your Saturday. Nigel, Martin, once again, thank you.
Take care. All the best.